Have you heard of the one where I became a spiritual health coach? I don't know if that's really the term that I would use. I spoke a little bit in other videos about how I was a health coach, functional medicine, and blah, 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 and how things just started to shift and change. And I would like to, I guess, talk about my life and how I came into this. Because I guess right now I'm training to be like within the prophetic ministry. And what does that mean? And how did I get here? And what that entailed. All right, so I grew up heathen, I like to say, where I basically was like a wild animal, kind of, I guess, trying to raise myself, taking what I could from the elders that be, and just was trying to survive. I remember being raised by my grandparents, and I remember one instance that I guess I was feeling God. Because, looking back, I never was really alone. I wasn't by myself. But I remember being in the back of the car and just getting this overwhelming feeling of love and peace. And I said, Mama, I want to be a nun. And she goes, she's like, do you even know who Jesus is? And I'm like, nope. I don't know Jesus. I don't know who. No. She's like, you'd probably be better off, just being like a monk or something, just being, something that has, I don't even know what she was thinking, but like she said, be something else. And I said, okay, because since I didn't know who Jesus was, why would I want to be a nun? That doesn't make any sense. And it wasn't like I wanted to fly, like, the flying nun. It wasn't that. It's just like I really felt like I wanted to dedicate my life to God. And I felt like that when I was a little girl. And so I think they did get me into a religious, like, preschool because of that. I don't really remember learning much because I do remember walking through the halls and there was like a picture, there was like a painting of like Jesus like going like this. And I remember asking my family, I'm like, who's that guy on the wall clapping? Like, who's that clapping? Like, I had no idea, totally oblivious. So like I wasn't given the foundations of anything. So like where did this all come from is interesting. I, started to grow up, and throughout my life, I did feel like these pulls. I got into like the new age stuff, universe stuff. And I mean, and it would be like some random things. My drunken friend would call me up and be on this wild tangent of how I'm going to hell. And so then it would make me just like start to digest heaven and hell. And what does that mean? I mean, I had a boyfriend, again, I think I said this before, give me a Bible. And of course I was like, not getting into that. And so like there would be these tastes throughout my life of pulls. And I had intuition. Like now I know what intuition really is. Intuition is kind of relying on yourself or other entities or what have you to get information. And I don't want to ever rely on that again. It's not something that I'm comfortable with. And so like I don't even like to call what I do intuition. But there'd be significant things that I knew or would like the birth mom, Max's birth mom, like how did I know the memorial was there? Like I just knew that it was time I had to get on a Zoom and I just knew. I had been able to see car crashes that happened and I was sleeping at somebody's house and I just had these overwhelming feelings of like someone has been like molested and then the next day somebody confessed that they had been molested. I had the smells smells that would help me be like, oh, you know what? Somebody has passed. And then, of course, there was the Father David Paul at the Catholic school. And I was like, this guy is no good. This guy is no good. So it's like these things kept pulling at me, and I knew that there was something there. So when I did go to the Catholic school, I didn't do well. I had way too many questions, and I was never given the correct answers. But it was really them trying to squash any kind of questioning I may have had. And now it's like I still have the same amount of questions, but like there are answers for these questions and that they're not so scary. So I haven't been shunned. I haven't been, pushed away for being curious or having what now is like theology, but like philosophy and all of that in my head. It hasn't been pushed away. When I moved to New York, that's, I think, when I really just got trapped in idolatry of like self, like to where it just was like constant looking to myself for answers, which is basically how I was raised. So it made sense. It's like I didn't know how else to survive. And now I'm out on my own. I'm in my 20s. I'm doing all sorts of crazy stuff. I didn't know where to look. And so I remember walking down the streets of New York constantly being like approached by religious leaders and cults. And like, oh, I remember when the Moonies, you guys know the Moonies? The Moonies are like a super cult. I was sitting there just reading. I don't even know what I was doing, but I was like in New York, and the Moonies came up to me and they're like, da ba 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 ba, start talking, and I start to like realize like, oh my gosh, this is the cult, and I got like super stoked. I mean, I wasn't gonna like go into the cult, of course, but I was like just fascinated. It's like, what are you guys like? What are you doing? Like, you guys are super culty. And so, like, even when I moved to Sarasota, which I find fascinating, like, I had to, you know, lunch dates trying to meet people, and like, literally two of them were in the cult. Like, one was like, have you heard of Reverend so and so? We follow him and we talk to dead people. I don't know. It was like super kooks. And so, like, there has always been something that like I, have been like attract like people or religious like leaders or something has been attracted to what has been going on. A lot of it for me, I feel like it's something that is trying to pull me off my path, trying to pull me off track, trying to get me distracted, which is very easy for me to do. And I have to stay focused. I didn't come into this godliness, like believing in God, easily. And Max came into it first. So Max used to be, I don't know, like he was just this little, I guess like I was when I was a little kid. So when Max, I remember, was just a little baby, his cousin was getting baptized. And I remember this. We had to walk into this church, and on the way, this kid he couldn't speak very much English. He was like, slow to talk. He could say mama, he could say ball, and I think he said like dada or something. And we were walking into the church, and Max sees Mother Mary, and Max goes, mama. And I'm like, oh, what the heck is going on? Yes, that's Mama Mary. And I just couldn't like fathom like where it was coming from. We get into the church, kids get baptized, blah, blah, blah. Everybody's saying a prayer. And everybody says, amen. And Max goes, out of nowhere, amen, as loud as he could. And everybody turns around and goes, oh, how sweet, oh, how cute. And I'm like, what is happening? What is happening? He would want to pray before we ate. And I was just against it all. I was the type of person that would go, oh my gosh, I was a horrible person. I would go into like the church and like, if I never went to church, but like for Catholic school, and like I would be like, oh, it burns, oh, the holy water, ah, it burns. It just, I would try and find humor in everything. So when Max was so sensitive and sweet and full of like this faith that I didn't teach him, it just got me softened a little. And I remember one time we were driving, and he was young. I mean, he could speak a little English, but he was young. And I was talking about the sunset, and I'm like, oh, that sunset, it just reminds me of my mom. And he's like, your mom's here. She's sitting in the front seat. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, okay. She's like, you should say hello to her. And I was like, hi, Mom, how you doing? And I did it all goofy. And he's like, no, don't do it like that. Don't do that. I'm like, oh my God, this kid is calling me out. He said, say it nice. And so I was like, oh, okay, hi. I know now that wasn't my mom. My mom wasn't sitting in the front seat with me. But that was God. Like, I was like giving a little to God constantly. And so like, when we moved, I knew I had all these intuition things. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do a class on, how to be psychic or how to be intuitive or whatever. And so I joined this class, and, I was going, getting my cards read. I was going and doing the sound bowls. I was doing all the things for myself until like God and Jesus started showing up. And this was no joke. Again, kind of like, what's going on? So I'd go and get my cards read, and they're like, oh, just so you know, Jesus is here for you. And I don't even know if they believed in Jesus. It was like, okay, thanks. And then I'm doing my class, and she's going into like whatever kind of zones, and she's like, Jesus is here for you. I'm like, of course he is. Of course he is. Then there was this time when someone saw somebody on Instagram, and they're like, look, this is something that you probably want to check out. This is something kind of like you want to do, because I started coming into like the spiritual aspects of like what I did and the emotional aspects of what I did. So this person was on Instagram, and she lived in Australia. And they said, you should check out what she does. She does the muscle testing, but she does it in a spiritual manner. And I'm like, okay. So I go and I book a session with her. And she's like, doing her thing. And she's like, yeah, Jesus is here. I'm like, of course he is. And she's like going through my emotional, like, sticky points. And she's like, all right, there's some stubbornness here. I'm like, yeah. She's like, oh, is it stubbornness to money? No. Is it stubbornness to love? No. And I'm like, stop. I know what it is. I have a stubbornness to God. And she's like, yeah, that's it. And she point blank asked me, do you want to let this go? And I cried and I fought for my last fight. And then I just said, yeah, I want it done. I don't want it anymore. And the stubbornness just kind of left. Just, stuff started changing. And I started reading the Bible. After that, all this stuff started opening up. So I did the Bible recap with Janelle, my girlfriend, and started to see things totally differently. So like everything that I had put here was me. Everything that I put above me was me. Or God knows what. I was getting answers from who knows where. I don't know who I was speaking with. I was talking to the universe. But the universe has been created. So now, instead of praying to creation, which is I'm a created being, in the universe, which is a created being, and everything else that has been created, instead of talking to that, I'm just talking to who created it. And I want to help people still, but I can no longer align with myself or anything else that isn't God. So these answers that I get, you should see how I talk to God. People think but I mean, I came from a world of not knowing. So I'm having like a conversation. That's it. Like I'm like, hey, okay, what? No, yeah, okay. That's it. That's all you gotta do. It's just a conversation. It's a relationship. That's it. It's a relationship. And so that's what I do now. And it's like God never promised this to be easy. He never promised life to be easy, you know? But if you are watching this and you're breathing still, then there's still life in us. And it may not have been easy going through our lives, but we were never promised that. And who I am now, I am proud to be. And I had to go through all of that, all the lies, all the deceit, all the insanity, so I could know what the difference was between now and then. Because now, without a shadow of a doubt, I know what I believe. I know who I am. I know what it is that I need to be doing with my life. So I feel like everything I do now is just rooted in Him. And everything that is not will fall away. And I mean, that's like the scariest part. But I'm watching it fall away, and it's good. Some of it's sad. Some of it's hard. But it's supposed to happen. This is where I'm supposed to be. So, I mean, anybody who ever wants to ask me questions, you can. But that's my story. I'm sticking to it. Oh my gosh.